marketers. Deborah Eckerling here.
And I'm Keith Smith, and we host the MPN Meta Marketing Show, which is not just another marketing podcast, but the marketing podcast about all the other marketing podcasts.
Podcasts are booming, right? We love them, and people actually listen. They don't scroll, they don't swipe, well, except maybe during the ad breaks.
But here's the secret. With the Marketing Podcast Network, your ads don't make people hit skip. We put your brand on shows that people actually want to hear.
That's right. We match your message with podcasts that make marketing nerds like us perk up and take notes, or at least nod knowingly, pretending they understand.
And don't worry, because we'll deliver your ad naturally. People might even think that we love your brand personally, which of course we totally do, unless it's a veggie smoothie, then maybe not.
If you want your brand heard without making listeners roll their eyes,
head to marketingpodcasts.net and catch marketing fans at work, rest, and play. Seriously, your audience is already listening. Make sure they hear your brand and not our awkward jokes.
Join the conversation, because good ads shouldn't just be tolerated, they should be enjoyed.
Yes!
You enjoy podcasts. We know because you're listening to one. Hi, I'm Jason Falls, the executive producer of the Marketing Podcast Network. We love podcasts too, so much so that in addition to providing you with the great episode you're listening to, we also help businesses, brands, and even individuals produce their podcasts. MPN Studios offers podcast consulting and production services to help you get you or your business its very own podcast. We've helped dozens of smart people, advertising agencies, and brands develop podcasts. All you do is record your content or interview. We take that and deliver a professionally produced audio or video episode, complete with show notes, transcriptions, and even promotional clips to use on social media. And our monthly subscription prices are hard to beat. If you or your company are jonesing to have your own podcast to establish thought leadership, drive business leads, or just have fun talking about your business or topic of choice, we'd love to help. Learn more at marketingpodcasts.net/studio. That's marketingpodcasts.net/studio.
Welcome to Storylines Live, the only podcast that explores the meaning and the power of the most important story in business. The one that answers why somebody would buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. This is the story that defines the very character and nature of an organization. We call it your capital S story. In each episode of Storylines Live, we feature guests who have great insights on business storytelling, who can share their experiences and key learnings to help you and your business do a better job of sharing your capital S story to deliver remarkable business results. In this episode, we're honored to have Perry Rearick, the event moderator and host at the respected media outlet Life Science Connect. He's a U.S. Army veteran whose interesting career path has led him here to talk about the narratives that life sciences companies need to share and how Life Science Connect can help them share those stories. Before Perry joined the company known as Follow Your Buyer, which he'll tell us about, he was a senior director at Life Science Connect. During that time, he helped transform a sales force there from one that simply sold advertising space to a team of business development consultants with an expertise in advertising and marketing communications. Folks, you got to know that there was some storytelling involved there, right? Before that, as I mentioned, Perry was a career U.S. Army officer for more than 28 years, serving in roles from the Middle East to the Pentagon. In addition to his role with Life Science Connect, Perry also established Mungadai Consulting. Did I say that right, Perry?
Mungadai.
Mungadai. See, there you go. I should have checked that with you. My broadcasting training failed me. This is an agency that helps develop and execute content marketing strategies for a variety of B2B and B2C businesses. And Perry used Storyteller U. I love the story behind the agency's name. At the end of the 13th century, the Mongolian Empire controlled the largest contiguous land empire in the history of the world. This achievement was largely accomplished by an army comprised mostly of horse cavalry, one that was swift, agile, and often outnumbered. Battles were won by employing superior tactics, tightly aligned in support of the empire's strategic goals. The key to the success of the army was this elite force. This highly skilled group of scouts operated as small, independent teams in advance of and far from the safety of the larger main army. The Mungadai, right?
Mungadai.
Mungadai.
Sorry.
There you go. Mungadai were highly disciplined expert horsemen, skilled in cross-cultural communications and diplomacy, and strategic in their thinking. Today, elements of the U.S. Army use that term to describe an arduous multi-day test of soldiers' endurance and skill. Wow, Perry, anything I missed in your bio other than mangling the name of your agency?
What a great intro. Thank you, Paul.
I just want you to know, folks, Perry did not give that to me. I went digging to go find that. That's fantastically interesting. All right. Well, we're really glad to have you here on this episode of Storylines Live, Perry. We ask all of our guests about their capital S story, and we ask them of those 4 questions: buy from you, work for you, invest in you, partner with you. Which is the most important to them right now? So, Perry, what is it for you? Which of those 4 is most important?
So, Paul, thank you for that wonderful introduction. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you. If you track the answers to that question in a statistical kind of way, I may skew the results a bit because I'm going to pick 2: partner and buy.
Yeah.
And I would say that at Life Science Connect, we don't really differentiate between the two in how we develop a relationship and sustain a relationship with our customers. You may be at a point in our relationship where there's no contractual agreement, exchange of dollars, but from the first time we speak to a customer or a prospect, we treat them like a partner, and that means we ask a lot of questions about their business, what kind of challenges we're up against. Ultimately, when they become customers, they're advertising customers. They want to reach a target audience to get some sort of business outcome, grow their business. And so we want to know what that is. We want to understand the challenges they're up against, what kind of problems they're facing. And ultimately, as a customer, we want to help them overcome those challenges.
Yes.
Not just get in front of a target audience. So that's the whole partnership by interconnection.
Well, I love that. And I have to say, Perry, obviously you've not been on every episode of Storylines Live, but I have. I'm not the first person who's picked more than one. And actually, in our experience, that's good. What that says is that you're thinking about more than one audience. And for sure, all of us as leaders of organizations think about the audiences, the 4 that are related to those questions. But in a lot of businesses, it's important to be focused on more than one in order to have success. So thank you for sharing that. Now,
Sure.
as our audience got from my intro of you, you didn't start out anywhere near the role you're in today. I find your military career fascinating, and I'd love if you could share with the audience how that came about and how you wound up moving from being someone trained to defend the nation to public affairs to now being in the role you're in today.
Yeah, it's a big story. So it's kind of it was almost 3 decades in the Army, and it's kind of hard to summarize concisely. But
Sure.
I'll share 2 really impactful components of my,
Mhm.
I've had a lot of good experiences. So I was a week and a half after graduating from high school, I was in the Army. I was in basic training. I was still 17 years old. I turned 18 while I was in basic training. There was no party, in case you're wondering. And so we were only and this was 1979. We were 3.5 years out of the Vietnam War. All of the non-commissioned officers, these are the frontline supervisors. These are the people that are there when you wake up in the morning. They're there when you go to bed, especially in the early days. But they are they're with you every moment of the day. They were all Vietnam War veterans. That's where their leadership skills were honed through that experience. They came back and they were not welcome from the Vietnam War. They weren't respected. Thankfully, our nation has a great deal of respect and honor for our veterans today, thankfully. And I appreciate that and have received that personally.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a different world back then.
For sure.
And I'll offer one example, not because I worked with this fella, this gentleman. I never served in his command, although he was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs for a period of time while I was in the Army. And that's Colin Powell. Colin Powell is a great example. And I mention him because most of the listeners would recognize who he is. He was a Vietnam War veteran, and he decided that we could do better. We had to do better. And he stayed in there. He stuck in. I think all of this generation of veterans could have easily left the military, happily gone into civilian careers and done very well, but they stayed in there. They didn't quit. They stayed in there. And what I learned, and many of us of my generation learned, that it's much easier to bring about change, positive change, by staying in.
Mm-hmm.
Stay close to the problem. Don't run away from the problem. Stay close to it and help overcome it. So that's one. That's one that's stuck with me throughout my life. The second is to embrace difficulty. Not just embrace it, but seek it out. Go find it and seek it out. And so at a fairly young age, I was a paratrooper for much of my career. And at a very young age, I went to what we call airborne training, which you learn how to fall out of an airplane wearing only a parachute. That's not a natural thing to do.
No.
To do that, you have to overcome some basic human fears, right? To do
Yes.
And so, but it's something that I loved to do. And I'm not going to be able to describe it in a way that is going to sound appealing at all. It's not sport parachute jumping. It's a military airborne operation. You get shoved into an aircraft. It's hot with 120, 119, if you're one of them. Other people, you're sitting very tight. You have 100+ pounds of equipment on you. At some point, you're given a command to stand up, the door's open, and you have to safely waddle to the door and fall out of this plane.
Wow.
Safely get to the ground and start. I cannot describe it in a way that it's going to sound like any amount of pleasure. However, what I would say is that there's nothing more exhilarating than doing a difficult thing with a bunch of people who are doing it with you that don't necessarily enjoy every minute of the experience. And so it is something that I have not been able to separate myself from. That's something I've sought my whole life. Seek it out. I recommend it to everybody. Don't just allow difficulty to come to you. Go find it. You will be enriched by taking a more difficult path.
Wow, that's great. Now, most of your career in the military was spent falling out of airplanes. But you had some interesting assignments later in your career that kind of led to where you are today. Share those with our audience, please.
Yeah, so the Army has this thing where they have some low density functions that have to be performed, but they don't need an entire branch. They just they need people to pop in and out. I think also if you come from the operational Army and then you go into these roles, you bring the credibility of the operational part of the Army. So I was selected to be a public affairs officer. Media relations, internal communications, external communications. And so I had some really interesting experiences working with some contingency operations in the Middle East when something, some dust up occurs. This was mostly in the 1990s. And I found myself deployed to the Middle East with a lot of international and national media because it was getting a lot of attention on the news. So I got to interact with some, we still see them. When there's a news story, there's the man or woman who's downrange, who's where the action is taking place, and they're reporting it. That's a tough job, and I learned a great deal of empathy and appreciation for what they do and interacting with them and how they have a job, they have to get a story. And we had to help them get that story. And I remember it was just a real enriching experience doing that. It really opened my eyes. And you have to be able to communicate the military, which most of our population doesn't have the experience in the military. You have to communicate to an external audience in a way that, an international community understands what's going on,
Yes.
but a national community back home supports what you're doing. So that was kind of our job. It was just a great number of experiences over several years.
So you got to work with war correspondents basically in the field.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. You also spent some time at the Puzzle Palace?
I did. Yeah. That's a nice
Oh,
term.
that's the Pentagon.
That it is the Pentagon. I had a couple assignments there that I did. No one ever volunteers to go there. You just end up going there, and you do your best. So that also exposed me to some national and international stories. But I got to see it from the inside of the Pentagon and how we manage those, and how we work through those. One, it gave me the appreciation for how committed the senior leadership, the senior military leadership was. I like, the military, the Department of Defense still gets a lot of criticism, but I can tell you, the vast majority of people there are, they're manning an oar, they're rowing hard,
Yes.
they're credible, and they have integrity, and they're working very hard for that.
Absolutely. All right. So you leave the military and you wind up where you are today. What made you decide to land where you are today? Was that a simple transition or were there a lot of steps?
Completely by accident, Paul. It was, I went to a company, Life Science Connect. We had a different name back then. My neighbor worked there. It was interesting when he discovered that I was retiring from the Army. He said, "Hey, I want you. You should come and work for the company that I'm working for." And I was like, "This is a media company, business to business, publishing. I'm not sure." And what he showed me was a set of values that the company lived up to.
Hmm.
And he himself was a military veteran. And what he recognized is that the values that this company lived by were very compatible with military life. Our first one, which is an old Zig Ziglar motto, we will not be great by what we accomplish, by what we help others accomplish.
Wow.
All about service. And so we sat down and talked for a while. I agreed to, I said, okay, I'll apply. I'll do. And through that interview process, I said, I didn't intend to do this at all, but I thought, okay, I'm in. I'm not. I still question why I was hired because I didn't seem to have the right background, but it seemed to work out.
Oh, I don't know. We'll let the audience judge here, but I'll toss in my 2 cents. I think your background perfectly prepared you, Perry, for what you do today. And folks, we're going to talk about that in a minute, right after we come back from this quick, short break.
Whether you bond over streaming binge-worthy videos, watching sports recaps, video gaming, or by unplugging altogether, the 2026 Lincoln Nautilus Hybrid helps keep you connected throughout your journey. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Available connectivity features and functionality vary by model. Package pricing, trials, and term lengths vary by model. Video streaming and games are only available while parked.
Welcome back, folks, to this episode of Storylines Live, the only podcast that explores the power and the meaning of the most important story in business, the one that answers why somebody would buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. We call it your capital S story. In this episode, we're honored to have Perry Rearick of Life Science Connect with us. And the first half of the episode, we dug into Perry's personal story. Now we're going to talk about Life Science Connect, what the company does and what Perry does there. So, Perry, tell us about your role at Life Science Connect.
I've had a number of different roles. I was brought in initially to kind of learn the business
Hmm.
and serve a purpose of trying to put some discipline into our contracting model. We sold advertising, sold access to an audience. So I got to work very closely with the senior leadership of the company and do that, learned the business, moved into a series of management roles, sales management roles. I now I guess, describe myself as an evangelist
Hmm.
for Life Science Connect and a method we follow, which is called Follow Your Buyer.
Yes.
And so I get to talk about that, interview people about that, best practices in marketing and sales, and that's what I do now.
Boy, I neglected to mention that you also have a great podcast called Trailblazers. And for those of you who will see this on YouTube, there's a street sign behind Perry that says Trailblazer. Uh, Tell our audience about your podcast, Perry.
So I found that I just really value conversations with people that I would classify as trailblazers. These are people that are really good, very confident with what they do. They're good at what they do. They think a little more deeply about their profession. They're not afraid to challenge the status quo. And it leads to great success, not just for the sake of, being the, person that challenges circumstances, but if they see a pathway to goodness,
Mhm.
and that's what they do. So it's a great. Not everybody qualifies to be a
Okay.
trailblazer, but it's a great group of people, and I love doing those podcasts.
Well, that's awesome. I have to say that I was honored to be interviewed for the podcast, and hopefully it doesn't break the internet when it publishes. Publishes, right? Terry, you said something very interesting in the beginning of our time together, that the capitalist story for you is about buying and also partnering. Can you talk a little bit more about in the Life Science Connect universe, who the buyers are and who the partners are?
Yeah. It's such a great story, and it's something I'm really proud to be a part of. I'm going to go back a little ways. When I first started working at Life Science Connect, and you and I have spoken about this, the why
Yes.
behind a business. I
Yes.
was probably a month or two into the job. I really was lost. You said, how hard was it at the beginning? It was enormously hard. It was, uh, but I'm thankful for that. As I stated earlier, doing difficult things is rewarding. One of the owners, we were privately owned at the time, and we were founded by two brothers. And one of them called me and said, "Hey, I'd like to go to lunch. Are you available?" And so we went to lunch. And he gave me the why of the business. And you and I have spoken about, if you can
Yes.
get access to a founder and get the why.
Absolutely.
After that lunch, I understood. It was one of the most valuable conversations I had. I had it early and I understood it. He grew up in a small town similar to mine. I would describe it as in the 1970s, it was a small town in Western Pennsylvania that had a terminal illness that was undiagnosed. They
Oh,
were industrial towns.
right.
They employed thousands of people, steel production, oil refining, all of the ancillary businesses that support that. And people made long careers doing that. A generation of my uncles, spent 40 years doing that. And it all was on the verge of drying up about the time I was in high school. Uh, the founders of our company said, how do we, this happened in their small town as well. How do we create a business that has the strategic agility to move into burgeoning markets at will? And that's how they founded B2B publishing. We eventually landed in life sciences because there is an unmet or an undermet need. And the landscape in life sciences today we have two kinds of customers. There
Yes.
are solution providers who are our advertisers, and then there is a readership or usership, people who
Mhm.
use our products to discover best practices.
Right.
And so in the life sciences industry, specifically drug and medical device therapies, uh, a lot of innovation comes from small to mid-sized companies. And small, I'm talking, academic facilities, research labs, to maybe a small group of people that left a big pharma and now are
Mm,
developing an innovation. They can't do that on their own. They
right.
need a lot of strategic partners to help them take a drug from discovery all the way to commercialization.
Hmm.
There's they need help navigating the regulatory environment. Uh, they need help conducting clinical research, clinical trials. They need help from development and manufacturing organizations to be able to produce the product and scale up to large. That's a very, not only is the drug development difficult, but finding the right partnerships is equally as difficult. This is a fragmented landscape. There was a lot of wasted time. We thought
Hmm.
we could do something about that. So we created a series of digital communities that the innovators can use, the solution providers
Right.
can pay to be a part of that community, and we can connect the two in a very efficient and effective way.
I love that because I will tell you, and some in the audience are probably well aware of this because they're in the medical field. On the physician end, there are at last count somewhere north of 30,000 medical journals that physicians could consume. So getting beyond that to make real connections is critically important. And as you described, it's a fragmented sort of an industry, and this is something that's really needed. So, Perry, what brings you the most satisfaction in your role today?
So I'm going to go back to that Zig Ziglar motto. It's we will not be great by what we accomplish, but why we help others accomplish. So it's really getting feedback from our customers, whether they are our readers or our
Mhm.
solution providers, and hearing feedback from them that, man, uh, we made this connection and it's off and running. And, now we've got, a drug therapy that's in, phase two trials. I think this is going to be a real success. And it's a therapy that is treating muscular dystrophy.
Yeah.
And now, as you're aware, Paul, the
Mhm.
therapies now are just not treating symptoms. We're into cell therapy, gene therapy, which is actually curing these diseases. And so that's really personally rewarding just to be on the outside. I'm not a scientist. I could never do anything like that. But if I can help make a connection to
Yeah.
accomplish that, it's very rewarding.
That's right, Perry. You're a connector. You're part of the process of connecting those folks. We covered a fair amount of ground today. It's been really enjoyable to me. I hope for you as well, Perry, and for our audience. Is there anything that you wish I would have asked you that we didn't get to?
I don't think so. You asked me things that I didn't think about, Paul, and it caused me to think about some
Good.
things that, so thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you for that kind compliment. That's maybe the journalism training is coming out somewhere in my later age. I don't know, but that's great. Thanks again, Perry, for being on this episode of Storylines Live. And I want to say thank you to our amazing audience. We're now beyond 50 episodes, which we're very excited about. We love doing this program. We love bringing great guests like Perry to your attention. Perry, how can our audience find you if they want to connect with you and Life Science Connect?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I post regularly on there. As you said, I do a podcast called The Trailblazers. You can find me on YouTube. You can connect with me. I love connecting, as you will come as no surprise. I love connecting with people, and I do a lot of that on LinkedIn and hearing stories, hear what they're up to. You can also visit followyourbuyer.com.
Mhm.
All of those podcasts are there, and you connect with me there as well.
Awesome. Fantastic, Perry. And audience, that'll all be in the show notes. Once again, Perry, thanks for being here today. Really appreciate your time and your insights on Storylines Live, the only podcast that explores the power and the meaning of the most important story in business, the one that answers why somebody should buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you, your capital S story. We'll see you next time on our next episode.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.